Christmas the Wallflower Way. By Melinda Curtis. Chapter 1. When did gingerbread houses stop looking like gingerbread houses? Fanny Fraser asked her sister as they claimed a corner table at the Teapot early on Saturday morning a few weeks before Christmas, when adults started entering gingerbread competitions. Mina Fraser Faulkner laughed, slowly spinning the plate of cranberry crumble muffins they'd ordered as if trying to pick the best option of the two. Her light brown hair fell straight and smooth from beneath her red and white knit cap. Fanny suspected her hair, the same light brown as her sister's, might be windblown and tangled. I take it you peeked at the gingerbread competition you're judging today. Mina spun the plate again. Yes. Fanny contemplated the muffins under Mina's review. She knew they were exactly alike. Since Gina Banning had purchased the teapot from her aunt, the bakery case had become a work of art. Every cookie, every muffin, every scone and brownie were of equal portion size and goodness. If Gina had entered the Christmas Town Bake-Off, she would have won, hands down. Fanny wasn't so sure she could say the same for herself. And she was a national cooking celebrity who was judging the event. Rockin' around the Christmas tree filled the popular coffee shop with more energy than Fanny could muster before caffeine. It had been a long week. And next week, her fate at the network was going to be determined. Would her TV cooking show be cancelled or renewed? Fanny wasn't sure. Or even optimistic. Why was it taking so long for the network to make a decision? Speaking of which, Mina hadn't chosen a muffin. Take this one. Fanny pointed to the muffin nearest her, unable to take her older sister's indecision any longer. It's got more crumble. And her sister loved sweet toppings. Mina studied Fanny a moment, and then took the other muffin farthest away from Fanny. You look like you're holding something back from me. Yes. That my career is about to tank. But Fanny wasn't ready to share that with her family just yet. A distraction was in order. And a tease was most effective. I'm not the Grinch sneaking around Whoville trying to ruin Christmas. Fanny shook her head and pulled the remaining muffin apart. It had just the right amount of cranberries and air pockets to promise a sweet, light taste. Kudos to Gina. Fanny put off taking a bite. She wasn't done teasing her sister. You ask me to meet you for coffee but don't trust me, a chef, to recommend a muffin. She'd scared. Now, if Master Chef Kyle Marconi had told you which muffin to pick, you'd have taken his recommendation. Her sister and Kyle had been high school sweethearts, both a few years ahead of her in school. Kyle was currently judging the Christmas Town Bake-Off and gingerbread competition with Fanny. Fanny stuffed a piece of muffin in her mouth, trying not to let the man get to her and not doing a very good job of it. 3 years his junior, she'd adored Kyle and that crush had carried over to today. She'd been doing her best to avoid him because she was certain he considered her success due more to luck than skill. The network seemed to share that view. You used to rave about Kyle's cooking and baking skills, Fanny reminded her. Pfft, Kyle? Mina flashed her solitaire diamond wedding ring toward Fanny. Kyle who? They shared a soft chuckle. Fanny glanced toward the counter, ready for her peppermint latte. The barista was steaming milk. They were lucky to have arrived at 6 a.m., right when the teapot opened. No one else had braved the dark, snowy Saturday December morning to grab a cup of joe. But she knew it would soon be filled and have a line nearly out the door. Fanny sighed happily. She'd been away from Christmas Town, Maine, for too long while she built a life for herself in New York City. It was worth getting up early to kick back at the teapot. The popular coffee spot across from the town square paid homage to Christmas Town's rugged logging and trapping heritage, the holiday for which the town was named, and the women who'd helped settle the area. That explained the decor. A pair of antique snowshoes and a rusted, two-handled logging saw were mounted on one wall. Yellowed photographs of founding town residents were arranged on another. Sturdy wooden tables and chairs from different eras filled the main room. Fresh wreaths and garlands draped around the windows. But the back wall was the teapot's pride and joy, its collection of vintage teacups and saucers. The barista delivered their lattes in wide coffee cups decorated with holly and served on matching saucers. Her brown apron was stitched with the teapot's logo and claimed a hot cup solves everything. Enjoy, ladies. You get a free refill because Fanny is judging the gingerbread competition today. Let me know if you want that second cup to go. They assured her they would. I love being treated like a celebrity when I'm with you. Mina held her coffee cup below her nose with both hands. Normally, I'm just another soccer mom. And if Fanny's show was cancelled, Fanny would be just another wallflower passed over for someone with more sass, sex appeal, or bling. The way boys had looked right past Fanny to Mina when they were growing up here. You're more than a soccer mom, Fanny reassured her sister. You married Chef Ira Faulkner's son and now you manage Ira's organic farm and event venue so he can provide farm-to-table cuisine. And you do it while raising 2 kids and keeping your marriage humming along. You work harder than I do. Anne was more deserving of praise. It wasn't like Mina's life was about to implode. Mina sipped her latte, then shook her head. Feeding and caring for chickens and goats, plus tending a greenhouse garden has nothing on my talented, world-famous sister. Do I have my own TV cooking show? Am I a guest judge on other people's cooking shows? Have I written 2 cookbooks or opened my own restaurant in New York City? I'm good in the kitchen. Big deal. Fanny cradled her peppermint latte with 2 hands and stared out at the snowy town square and the gazebo where she'd never been kissed. Wallflowers didn't get asked to dance, much less receive kisses promising a forever kind of love in Christmas Town's magical gazebo. Especially wallflowers who hid in the science lab, on out-of-the-way benches, or in their home kitchen. If only Fanny hadn't lost her young heart to Kyle. Maybe she'd have been a bit more boy-crazy growing up. Maybe she'd be more confident, more outgoing and less reserved today. She sighed again, less happily this time. Sunrise wasn't for another 30 minutes. Christmas lights still lit up the square. Another rousing holiday tune poured from the speakers, something about the colorful candy cane lane. Wasn't Christmas supposed to be relaxing? Fanny felt on edge. The truth is that I'm not extraordinarily talented. This week alone, I've seen plenty of people display their baking skills, including kids. Mina sked. This is why people love you. Not only are you kind, but you're humble. What does Kyle say about your success? He used to dote on you. Fanny mumbled something non-committal. She didn't want to talk about Kyle. When she'd agreed to be a last-minute replacement judge for the bake-off, she hadn't known who the 3rd judge was. Kyle used to hang out at their house, cooking dinner or baking sweet treats and taking on dares when Fanny found the odd ingredient for him to add into the mix. She'd loved baking before he'd come into her life, but with him, her love of all things kitchen was born. It'll be great PR, Mina's father-in-law Ira had told Fanny over the phone Sunday when he'd asked her to fill in. And Mina says you've been in a funk lately. Coming home early to Christmas Town will do you good. She'd arrived on Tuesday. And Ira might have been right, if not for Kyle. The day Mina dumped Kyle, Douglas Staley practically blew up the science fair. And in the aftermath, Kyle, who was the science teacher's assistant, blew up at Fanny over Douglas' disqualification and her default win. After that, they stopped talking altogether. And a few days later, he graduated and moved away. But Fanny had carried Kyle's frustrated, teenage words to her that day to this day. You have to earn everything, Fanny. Every inch of praise and respect. Or you might just as well scurry back to your wallflower bench in the quad and give up trying. When she heard those words in her head, she shut up, slowed down and focused. She paid attention to detail. She tried to prove that she deserved a seat at the table. When Fanny's TV show wasn't renewed, would Kyle remember his prophetic words? If the network said her personality scores were too low and canceled her, would customers cancel their reservations at her restaurant? Would her fans stop buying her cookbooks? The tension of the past few weeks gripped Fanny's shoulders. She'd just begun to get comfortable with her success. And now, the wallflower bench loomed. How has it been to work with Kyle this week? Mina set down her coffee cup. Fanny picked at her muffin, choosing her words carefully. He's been fine. Staring at me as if he has something on his mind. If only that something was kissing. And since she thought she knew what was brewing behind those sharp blue eyes of his, fraud, sham, undeserving, she'd avoided private conversations. Sorry, Kyle. Gotta run. Will you excuse me, Kyle? I have to answer this text. Because if Kyle didn't find her worthy, what would the network find? Hey. That sounds like you think you need to take sides, Kyle's or mine. Mina rubbed Fanny's shoulder. I was over Kyle the moment Vinny kissed me. Besides, when I was with Kyle, I always had this feeling. I don't know, like Kyle put on a facade every morning with his socks. I just felt he wasn't completely honest with me about his family situation or what he wanted out of life or why he never wore an ugly Christmas sweater during the holidays. Mina paused, shaking her head. At one point, I thought he liked you better than he did me. That's ridiculous. But a traitorous part of Fanny's heart fluttered, nonetheless. Is it? That last year we were together, Kyle always offered to take you with us whenever we went out. Mina finished the last of her muffin. What's your schedule today? The kids were asking about you last night. Briella and Dante, adorable darlings who were growing up too fast. Are you going to have time for them today? Tomorrow would be better. I can take them to the carousel. Fanny began ticking off the day's commitments. I have breakfast with Bake-Off organizer Olivia Charles and the other judges at 7. We'll start evaluating the gingerbread competition at 9. But with the format, we won't finish until around 11, or perhaps later. Hence Olivia's offer to buy her judges breakfast and their goodwill. The bake-off demonstration with the 4 finalists starts at 2. We're announcing the winners of the gingerbread competition at 3. When the final bakes are presented at 4, we'll announce the bake-off winners. And then I'm going to head back to Mom and Dad's house, take a nice long soak in the bathtub, and not talk to anyone for as long as I can manage it. What about tonight's gala? Mina stole the rest of Fanny's muffin. Won't Olivia expect you to show? I hope not. Fanny groaned. The last thing I want after being on my feet all day is to get gussied up and wear heels. Boots or sneakers were her go-to in the kitchen. She was like a newborn baby deer when she wore heels. I guess asking you to go Christmas shopping with me tonight is out, too? Yes. This wallflower needed time to recharge her batteries away from the crowd. The sun tried to peek through the snow clouds on the horizon. Unsuccessfully. The lights went out on the town square. Unsuccessful efforts. Lights out. Fanny hoped that wasn't an omen for her career.